When life storms rage and skies grow dim, we gather the shards, piece by piece within. Through tears and trials, we find our might. Let me take you higher toward the light. Let me take you higher beyond the pain. Where broken dreams mend and hope remains. We'll rise from ashes like a phoenix bold. In the symphony of resilience, our stories unfold. When life storms rage and skies grow dim, we gather the shards, piece by piece within. Through tears and trials, we find our might. Let me take you higher toward the light. Let me take you higher beyond the pain. Where broken dreams mend and hope remains. We'll rise from ashes like a phoenix bold. In the symphony of resilience, our stories unfold.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Let Me Take You Higher podcast. Today, we're diving headfirst into one of America's most loaded topics, guns. That's right, the national obsession that's somehow both a symbol of freedom and the reason we all flinch when we hear a car backfire. Guns in America. It's like the Wild Wild West never ended, and the Second Amendment has become our holy scripture. Whether you're stocking up like it's the apocalypse or questioning if the Founding Fathers would have signed off on an AR-15, we're going to unpack it all. So strap in and keep your trigger finger steady. This conversation might just go off the rails. America and guns, they go together like fireworks on the 4th of July, exciting but dangerous. The Second Amendment, written back in 1791, granted the right to bear arms. But here we are in 2024 asking, did the Founding Fathers ever think we'd be dealing with the level of gun violence that we have today? Our special guest today is none other than Jegaysus, a political commentary that we're going to do today. He's really, really great at this kind of stuff, guys. That's why I've asked him to be back on the show. So, Jegaysus, exactly what do you think about the gun situation and how it's progressed over the many, many years since the Constitution was written?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're in a totally different place. Like you mentioned, it's 2024 now. So, I mean, if you're talking about back then when it was written, they had muskets, okay? They weren't thinking about AR-15s or AR-45s, these assault rifles that we have nowadays. Like, now we have enough firepower to arm everyone in the country twice. I don't know if you know this, but there are more guns in this country than there are actual American citizens.
Yes,
And
I've heard of this.
yes, it's outnumbering 2-to-1 almost. And
Right.
if you look back at the numbers, I mean, in 2021 alone, over 45,000 people died from gun-related incidents.
Oh, that's crazy, man. That is
That's
insane.
literally more than some small towns. That's more people than when I grew up in a small town. Like, we had 30,000 people.
And that's so you're saying that we're probably escalating towards, and I think we're already here, a national crisis.
It is a crisis. It's an epidemic. It's a crisis, and it's something that needs to be addressed.
Okay. So thinking outside the box a bit, and we all know as normal, civilized Americans that we have an issue. I think just a couple of days ago, a kid went into, I believe, Georgia and like shot and killed 4 people. And it's because he had like a bad upbringing or something. How can we avoid stuff like that?
I wish I knew. I don't think there is a way to avoid it with
Yeah.
how we are in America. America is basically kind of fell into this rut of it's a sickness. I mean, we can
Yeah.
go ahead and make stronger gun control. We can go ahead and make another assault rifle ban.
Right.
Speaking of the one that we used to have one in place, and you saw gun violence, at least from assault rifles dropped because
Yeah, and it did.
it just
And
didn't exist. And
right,
that
and
was
it was a
when they
Biden
killed.
era. I think we're celebrating like the 25th or 30th anniversary of the assault weapons ban. I think that's actually this year, and that was a Biden produced bill when he was a senator.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, but then it expired. It expired and was overturned. So for the past 5 years, we've just seen those deaths and those incidences escalating.
right. So I guess what I would ask, I mean, I know this. It's pretty much time to break down the pros and the cons of our gun violence and the gun lobby. What are the pros? What I think they are, of course, is self-defense. I think that's what the original founders really meant by bearing arms, self-defense. For many, having a gun is about protection. A well-armed society, they say, is a safer society. And it's your constitutional right under the Second Amendment, of course. But I think that the new way we're dealing with these guns are making people believe they have to arm against an invisible army. I mean, if we look at it, China can't get here. Russia, I mean, if they go across the barrier strait, they could probably invade us before they go through Canada. But I mean, who are we trying to protect ourselves from? Each other?
Yeah, I mean, people would say that it's each other, right? Like you mentioned self-defense. A lot of people have what I call an obsession with safety, right?
Okay.
They have this obsession with the need to feel protected, and that is what a lot of people use arms for, is just that having a gun in the house in the back of their mind means that they're ready for any kind of situation that may come up, and I'm going to keep my family safe. And I don't want to say it's a fantasy. Like people do have crimes, people do break in and do things.
Yeah.
But in reality, the majority of Americans are not going to be affected by crime in that way. Violent crime is way down and has been going down every single year.
Oh yeah, absolutely it is. Yeah.
And the majority of people have this obsession with safety, not realizing they're putting their family at risk, they're putting
Right.
themselves at risk. The
Mhm.
majority of gun deaths in this country are from self-inflicted gunshots. You're
Yes.
more likely to use it against yourself or your family than you are from somebody breaking in. So this
Well,
obsession with safety kind of needs to end before we could
right.
ever start to address that.
Okay.
Um, that's my thoughts at least. And then, like you said, it's a constitutional right because the forefathers wanted a right to have a militia, but that was before there was any kind of military. They
Right.
didn't have any kind of way to, like you said, protect against China if they were ever to invade. But that was a one-on-one fight. That was
Right.
arm to arm. Everyone had muskets. Everyone was on the same page. Now we've progressed so much in military that even if the militia thing was meant to protect you from your government, if it was so people could rise up and fight back the government that comes from the wall, it's
Right.
literally impossible. I don't
No, I
care if
don't
you
I
have
don't
the strongest assault rifle you can ever have known to man, you're not going up against a drone, bro.
no, and I understand. And that's what I'm saying. Now, there's a lot of reasons for like rural Americans, people who live out in the boons, in I would say the Quaker states. And I hope I'm not being too coy, but hunting for sport in rural America, guns aren't just tools for defense; they're part of the culture, from hunting to shooting to sports. And these guys, and I think it was famously said by, I forget the guy. He said, you won't take my gun, but over my dead body. And I mean, that's a chant that's been around for a long, long time. So I guess that's the pros of it, because we do need to defend ourselves, but we are in a crisis. But I believe the cons are violence escalation, more guns, more gun violence. It's pretty much as simple as that. Given to what you said, we have the mass shootings that occur like 20 times a month now. I think that last year was one of the longest streaks of mass shootings we've had in a very, very long time. And mental health. There's a lot of people who don't have it all together in the top of their head. I mean, I just watched a newscast where a woman was eating a cat. So if you,
Not the cats.
yeah, I mean, I know you saw
The
this.
Ohio lady, yes, the people that they're saying are Haitian immigrants, but she was actually born in Ohio and she was on a lot of drugs and she tortured and killed and then ate a cat. Yes.
Uh,
Imagine if she had a gun.
now, now put a gun in that lady's hand and take the drugs away. She's still going to be mentally ill. There's still something wrong. I mean, drugs make you do crazy things, I know, but they don't make you, chase down, hunt down cats and eat cats. So I guess what I'm saying is mental illness has a big part to play in the way we treat people in America. Would you not agree about that?
Oh yeah, entirely. And like like I said, I think that's a huge part of it. Mental illness in general is the number one cause. I mean, like, not necessarily. And if you look at mass shootings, they'll say that they have no formally diagnosed or diagnosable mental illness, and that's not a cause for people to do mass shootings.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, obviously that doesn't make sense because anyone who wants to kill somebody is mentally ill in one way or
Yes.
another. Like, that want to murder is in itself an illness.
Okay.
But I mean, you know what? If we want to argue that, then I say we need to go ahead and take guns away until the mental illness is fixed. Like, sure, let's say it's a mental illness epidemic and all of America is sick. Cool. We need to suspend access to guns until we fix that. No one's
Now
doing anything to fix that. And in the meantime, they
Mhm.
should not have the responsibility to own arms. We've lost
Well,
that
and that's
responsibility.
a perfect rebuff and a perfect retort. So this is what I was thinking. Now I don't know if I'm right, and I could be going off the rails and diving down a rabbit hole that I don't want to be in. But if you think about it, Neanderthals back in the day, I mean, we're talking thousands and thousands of years ago. They were hunter gatherers. They made some of the very first weapons for that, and they were known to barbarianize each other, like beat each other with sticks, cannibalize each other, things that we're learning to this very day through through the studies of Neanderthal bones and all this good stuff. Now, do you think, and I'm going on a stretch here, certain aspects of Neanderthal DNA still represent themselves in some of our more civilized counterparts? Because if you think about it, the mass shooting crisis is almost centrally located in a certain kind of individual. And I'm going touch toe with this, but I want to get your perspective because if you look at mass shootings, 99.9% of mass shootings in America are done by who?
White man.
White men. So why though? What? And I've always thought about it.
White
There's
cis
gotta
het men, not even the gay ones. We got to make sure that it's a very specific small category of people here.
Yeah. So I mean, let's call a spade, because if it was any other culture, and I'm not going to go crazy. You're part white. I want the audience to know that I'm also part white. So we're all endeavored into this identity of fierceness and being barbarian in a way because it's toxic masculinity at its most. Because most people who shoot guns are men. Let's
Yeah.
just be honest. So how do we break this? How do we break it down and figure out what's causing this? I think it's in the DNA.
I don't know. I've never considered it being a DNA thing. I mean, we all have, almost all of us at least, have Neanderthal DNA that is
Yes.
still a holdover from back in the day. But I
Right.
don't know if I would even say that's a Neanderthal trait. That might just be a human Homo sapien trait. I
You
don't.
think? Yeah.
It'd be hard to
Okay.
see. But it would be really interesting if you like propose this as a like a theory and a hypothesis. I would
Yeah.
love to go through and get DNA collected from every single mass shooter that's gone and run
Yes.
it through a genomic sequence and see if
Yeah.
there's a specific gene that stands out that they all share in common. Maybe they have a gene called SR8295
Yeah.
that they share that regular people don't. It would be a really interesting thing to just kind of scientifically go down that rabbit hole, see what
Yeah.
happens.
Because genetically speaking, and this is just science, folks. I'm not, doing anything odd, but genetically speaking, Neanderthal DNA represents 2% at the maximum, but you can only find it in Europeans and Eurasians. So Asians and Europeans have that 2%, almost all of them. Now, Africanus, which would be somewhat sort of Homo sapien, however you want, the people who sprung from Africa, for the most part, don't have any Neanderthal DNA, but yet they still do violence. So I'm not sure if there's an interjection there or if you can make the play for it, but we can map the genome. We know we know what these genes do hereditary wise and mitochondrially. So why not let's just do the science behind it,
It would be interesting. I would sign your paper. I was going to say fund the project, but I don't have that kind of money. No, so if anyone out there is listening to this and has some access to gene sequencing machines, let's get on this. Let's propose
I
this as the next big research paper.
I think I think we've stumbled onto something that look, we carry a lot of traits from our ancestors that we bring to the future. We're evolving as we speak for, future humanoids or human, whatever we're going to be called in 1,000 years. And they're going to take some of our traits and, they're going to lose some traits. We had a podcast about how the Y chromosome is vanishing and it's going to be
Oh, yeah.
completely gone in about 15 million years. There won't be men, as we won't have testes. So we know this is real things that go on. So let's spend the money, man. I'm ready to figure out gun violence on the very minor scope of DNA. I think it's there if we look at it.
I mean, but then we wouldn't really have a solution. If you think about it, that would then lead to what? We'd go right back into eugenics. People would be testing their kids to see if they're a mass murderer and they have this mass murder gene. They'd have to put them down. Like that gets dangerous too. People will start talking about the ethics of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, see, that's okay. So that's taking something DNA driven and becoming a social experiment. Like it's the question. If
Yeah.
you had the ability to stop Hitler when he
I was
was
going to say,
baby,
then we go back to Hitler, though. If you were a mother and you had a baby Hitler and you knew for sure that he was going to be a Hitler, would you want your child or would you sacrifice for the humanity?
you have to see, look, and we know that Hitler was probably the Antichrist from most people's perspective. Would you have swallowed? Or I won't say. If you had the opportunity, how would you do it?
Hitler, you taste so
But
good.
and I know we're going off on the rails. I can feel it. I know we're going off on the rails, but I'm just trying to attack this very, very real situation, this crisis in America, from every standpoint I can find it, because it just makes no sense. The next civilized place, I'm going to say the next civilized place, but the places around us that are civilized and are democratic don't have gun violence like this. And why is that?
Yeah. I mean, like you're saying too, there's ways to get this done. In Australia, they had one mass shooting. They took away everyone's guns, had a buyback program,
Yeah.
but they still allow guns. So for the normal civilian, guns are not allowed. But Australia is one of the most dangerous freaking natural environments there is.
Yeah.
So talking
Spiders.
about the people who live out in the boonies in these
Mhm.
rural areas, they're still allowed to have guns in Australia because they need to
Oh,
protect themselves from those kangaroos that have big old muscles. Like legit, they need to shoot some kangaroos sometimes. So they're
Bro, I'm
still
telling you,
allowed
I
to have
saw a
guns,
freaking thing on
but it's not
the
an issue.
interwebs where a kangaroo was inviting a guy to come at him in the middle of a pond of water. And they say that when kangaroos do that, they're gonna
They're
choke
gonna
your
die.
ass out and you're gonna die. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
kangaroos aren't they need their guns over there, but they
yeah.
realize that's the difference is like responsible citizens who aren't out in the middle of the bush just
Mhm.
don't have guns because that was what everyone in the country agreed to. And then people who are in a farming community and are 5, 10, 15 miles away from help, they do. But those are
Uh-huh.
not the kind of people that show up in town doing a mass shooting.
Right.
So it's a balance, and there's definitely ways to make it happen. But like you said, every democratic nation around us does
Mhm.
not have this issue because they
Yeah.
all came to their own solutions
Mhm.
that still don't step on people's freedoms for
Right.
most of them, and or take into account that people use them for sports or use them for hunting. But like nobody needs an assault rifle for hunting. You cannot take that
I mean,
out
I'm in
and kill a
Texas, so
deer
I don't
like
know, but
that.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, not if you're hunting for like food or if you're
Yeah.
gonna like actually want to save that carcass for its skin and put its head on the thing. Like if you use an AR, you're gonna blow up their head. You can't mount the head on the wall. So it's like no
Okay,
one's
so
using that for sport.
now so that's a perfect segue into something I wanted to ask you, because I know and I know you have a thought process on this. So a few months back, one of our presidential candidates, we're just going to say Donald Trump, almost got assassinated, right? By an AR-15, I believe that's what they said it was.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen an AR-15's bullet. Those things are as long as fingers, like, and they're thick and they're heavy. So, and people are saying if he would have got shot like that, his whole half of his face would have just been blown off just by the reverberations of the impact of that bullet.
That's
Now, the next
exactly what I've been saying.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
What have you heard about this? Because I have questions, man, and I know we
Well,
live in a
I have questions
nation.
too. I don't think anyone has answers because I don't think that. Well, there's the FBI report that said they were going to give a full on briefing, but it's almost like we forgot about it and like haven't pressed
Right,
them on that. There was hearings directly after it happened, and I haven't heard anything since.
right.
But the FBI director was like let go or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I've been saying I just posted. It's interesting that you said that because I just posted a TikTok video about that yesterday.
Yeah.
Showing his ear at the debate, looking totally
Bro,
fine and
see,
talking.
you're gonna make me get into the weeds on this because I don't want to become one of those conspiracy theorists like Laura Stupid Looper. I'm sorry, I don't like you, lady, but
It's not like it's confusing. It's just like you said. So I mean, the reason why I bring that up is because not only, like you said, should it doesn't take a lot to remove an ear. Like that ear
no.
should cut off. Apparently, it takes as much pressure to rip a piece of paper as it does to rip an ear.
Look
Uh,
at Mike Tyson. He ate the hell out of
yeah,
Holyfield's
that's
ear. I was
exactly.
watching it.
It just pops right off. It's
Yeah,
like it's cartilage. It's not supposed to do that. But also, cartilage is one of the slowest healing parts of your body.
it's
Anyone
true.
who has ever gotten a piercing in their upper ear
Mhm.
cartilage
Takes
knows it
forever.
takes about 2 years to heal. It takes a very
So
long time. You should have keloids. You should have cauliflower ear. The
yeah,
velocity of the bullet, even if it grazed him, like you said, should have left burns because it's going
burn,
so fast that there should be heat. Uh,
scarring. Mm-hmm.
Scarring. There should be no way he has a perfect ear, even with reconstructive surgery. But he was out golfing the next day with
Yeah,
no marks. But
I
more
mean,
importantly, it's a conspiracy because the FBI themselves said straight up when they're looking into it, we do not know if he was grazed by a bullet or if he was
for the
hit by
glass.
shrapnel from the teleprompter.
But
And they
have you
said they
ever
were
been
going to
cut?
investigate
Cuts don't
that.
heal right away either. Just so everybody knows.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it would be a little bit more explainable if it was a little shard glass or whatever.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, they said that straight out, and then they never confirmed which one it is. After that, they said they were going to open an investigation, and it's been closed. They haven't given us that information, which I find so interesting.
It's all super weird, and it's like
Yeah,
it's it's so funny. I have a friend, and we talk about politics back and forth. He's a Republican, and I'm like, so what happened to Trump's ear? Like it just like he says it was like a movie, like it was first there and then it's over. Like we don't even talk about it, but his ear is perfectly fine for having an AR-15 bullet graze his entire head. I just don't understand. I don't get it.
it does
Uh,
not line up, and you can take that the conspiracy route, or you can take it another route. But either way, there's just the facts are facting.
yeah. It just does not make any sense. But you see, we're getting into the weeds, and I promised myself when I did this episode, I would not get into the weeds, and I did it. Damn you. Anyway, but let's talk about this. What's really, really, really interesting, if we do a deep dive and kind of like a devil's advocate, when you think about it, is social media creating monsters? Like, are they creating these people? Because when a mass shooter comes out, one of the first things he does, he goes to 4chan or Twitter, or he does a Facebook Live telling everybody, hey, I'm going to kill these many people in this day. He gives you a location like he's an evil villain, like a real villain, and he tells you his master plans before they even take shape. Are we as citizens not paying attention, and are we not doing our part to get these guys turned over to the FBI or whatever jurisdiction they should be?
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of my friends on TikTok said it best the day that the actual Winder, Georgia thing happened. And he said, it's literally all of our faults.
It really is.
The blood is on every single person's hand. We're not doing anything. Like, even though you can point to the politicians and the legislators and say, okay, thoughts and prayers aren't enough, they need to start doing something. Like, we as an entire country are
Yeah,
not doing it enough. We should be out in the streets rioting. We should be literally burning this place to ground like our name was France. And we do nothing. And so we continue to be complicit. But
right.
most importantly, I think, like you said, social media is a big part of it. Some of these guys are looking for fame.
Right.
Excuse me. Some
Yeah.
of these people just want their name in lights from
Yeah.
committing atrocities. And there's actually a movement. It's called the No Notoriety Movement. And what it requires to do was started by one of the Sandy Hook's victims' fathers. And what it is basically is these media companies, the newspapers, they're always so quick to publish information about the shooter. Like, as
Right.
soon as it happens, they're like, he was this age, this is his first name, his name is Colt, whatever his last name is. He looks like this. Here's his photo. And
Mhm.
the No Notoriety Movement requests that every single person that sees those and reads those contact the news media directly and say, take down his name, take down his picture, take down his information. We don't want to be giving him any kind of notoriety because then the people on social media see it and inspires the next wave. And so,
Yeah.
as a people, that's one small thing we can do
Yeah.
is leave a comment on the CNN blog, call the tip line. Same with every newspaper in your area. Just say stop publishing his name. Stop
Yeah.
publishing.
Get him out of the spotlight. Good. Let's not get into what these people want for sure.
Exactly.
I mean,
Just like celebrities, when celebrities commit suicides, there is an agreement across the press ever since, like, what's her name? Kate Spade committed suicide.
Kate Spade
As soon as she did,
no.
yeah, Kate Spade died. I think, I don't remember the exact things because she hung herself by using a doorknob.
Yeah.
But they published the details of that, and as soon as that happens, there's a provable increase in not only suicides, but suicides specifically committed in the exact same way as the celebrity did. And so at that point, it was agreed upon in the media that if you're going to report on a suicide, you're not allowed to talk about how they did it, when they did it,
And why?
etc.
Okay.
Because it doesn't want to inspire copycats. And they held up to that today. There's been a couple of celebrity suicides recently, and they don't publish the details.
Yeah, they don't really tell it, they don't even talk about it as much as they used to.
Yeah, and we need to be doing the same thing with any kind of gun violence. We need to not talk about who it was, anything about their life, no speculations on all these, like, whatever they speculate on. But yeah, we need to stop giving them this road to being famous for the most awful reason.
Yeah, and it's so horrible. I mean, if we think about it, we are adding to this specter because we all say that we love good news. Why don't we have any wholesome, sweet, Gracie news? But we don't watch those kinds of news programs. We watch the ones that lead us in shock and awe, that are horrific and horrible. And I believe that the generation that's facing this the most, aside and out of the millennials, is the Gen Zs, and they grew up with this kind of violence. Like when I was going to school, there were no shooters, and that was unheard of. That was crazy. But until Sandy Hook, came and Columbine came, then we started seeing this all the time. And then these people with these horrible instincts gave into those instincts, and now it's just blown up all over America. Every day you turn on the news, you're seeing it. And I think that if people understood what we're doing to propagate that, they would probably pull themselves away from that tale, from that story tale of how America is just so drenched in gun violence, and we're numb to it. We're so numb to it. And it's a sad thing that we face in America on a daily basis.
100,000%.
Yeah. So, I mean, I want to talk about a tale of two realities. Okay. So I guess the question is, we have the people who don't use guns. Like, I live in Texas and I don't have a gun. I have things I would love to protect, but I haven't felt the need to get a gun just yet. But with all the crazy laws, like in Texas, they just released a law last year, conceal and carry law. So you can pretty much go to anywhere and get a gun, and you can carry it legally and shoot it legally. Like, it's ridiculous. No license needed. Is it the politicians? And I'm not gonna pick a side, but is it the politicians that are spurring along this kind of behavior and making it acceptable and numbing the public?
Yeah, I think that's a huge part about the politicians. I mean, I think, as you pointed out, like, they are the ones that are making these laws. They are the ones that are repealing the assault rifles ban. They are the ones who have the power to do an overall amendment to the Constitution. Like, it is completely within their responsibilities to do this, and they are not addressing it. But if anything, they're encouraging it. And I think that has a lot to do with, obviously, dark money in politics. The NRA spends millions and millions and millions of dollars lobbying and paying these Congress people directly to make sure that they have gun laws that continue to protect their bottom line to make more money. And not only that, I think the most important part is they're using it as a single voting issue. That's the other thing, is it brings in votes for them. The same way that they politicized abortion, the same way that, unfortunately, they won with the abortion, but that actually affects their numbers. They're going to get less people to vote for the Republican Party now that abortion has been repealed.
Right.
So the reason why they, for so many years, used it as a single voter issue since the 70s, when Roe versus Wade was originally enacted, made it this huge evangelical / Christian / religious reason.
Yeah.
Because it brings people to the voter polls. It makes people vote because they're like, we're going to do it. We're going to actually get abortion illegal. this is going to be our thing. But they never had the intention to actually do that. They never
Yeah.
put in legislation or bills to try to override the Supreme Court. Like that was never in their plan because they knew as soon as they got it repealed, they would have to move on to another policy. So they
Yeah.
put so much focus on this abortion. And I do the same thing in terms of gun rights. The reason
Right.
why they repealed the assault rifle ban is so that we can all fight about it and be right here again. The
Yeah,
fact
and
that
that's
they
true,
refuse to
man.
put in sensible background checks, they refuse to put in any rules, is because
Mhm.
they know it brings people to the debate and people are
Yeah,
heated because it's about life and death situations.
it is,
And they
man.
know that that will get them votes. So the reason why they don't want to fix it is because they earn more money and because they earn more power from not having the problem fixed.
Right, and that's the same thing that they said the Democrats were doing. When it came down to abortion, they're like, "Well, you guys could have done it this many times, and you never codified Roe, and you never went the extra mile because you wanted something to run on to." And I believe in today's politics, I agree.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Everybody needs a villain. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's the villainization of our contemporaries and the villainization of us as a whole. Like if you're on that side of the road, then you're the villain. And they say that if you're on that side of the road, then you're the villain. So I mean, what do we do? I know for a fact guns aren't the great equalizer. They're not. But are they the source of all division? Is there a happy medium? What do you think we can do to have that happy medium between both parties when it comes to gun legislation?
I don't know. We need sensible gun reform. I mean,
Right.
we can see like by the stats, by what's happening every single day, we can see that there's an issue. No one denies the fact that this is an issue. No
Yeah.
matter what side of the aisle that we're standing on, everyone agrees there's a problem. So it's
Yes.
about coming to a sensible way to make that problem go away. And I think I don't know what it's gonna take, to be honest. It's gonna stop politicizing children's lives.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is because one side is like, they're gonna try to take away all of my guns. They're trying to take away all our
You
liberties.
want that gun? Give
And
it
then
to
the
me,
other
the
side is
gun.
like, we don't want your
Yeah.
guns, we want laws. But like
Mhm.
until we bridge that gap, then it's gonna continue to be a divisive point.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to even fathom why it's a divisive point because it
We know
feels
what's
almost like
happening. We can see
one
it.
side is trying to trick themselves into believing it's not happening.
Yeah.
Like the guns
Exactly.
don't kill people kill people debate.
Yeah.
Like that's I don't know, that's fourth grader logic. Like
It really
what?
is.
What are you
It's really
on
horrible.
about?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. Let's think some
Exactly.
other obvious things. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
You aren't a
exactly.
bad cook, but anyone can burn food. Like okay, and what's your point? Like
Yeah.
good. We agree. People kill
Yeah.
people. Now
We
let's
agree
take
to
away the
disagree on some of those
tools that they
issues.
use.
Yeah. But look, exactly. And at the end of the day, we've got to ask, what's the true cost of liberty when it comes with such a heavy price tag? Losing our kids, losing just helpless individuals who have mental illnesses, people being shot every day by our local law enforcement. There's a lot of things that come to owning a gun and the gun mentality. But it's one of those topics that unless we all come together, we're all going to fall apart. So, this has been your episode of the manic depressive banging in America, the gun violence lobby. For me, my name is Mr. Villain, and you've been watching or listening to rather, Let Me Take You Higher. Our special guest, of course, the wonderful, ever elegant Jegaysus. And you can see Jegaysus on TikTok at Jegaysus. And guys, it's something that we all got to come together and figure out. Again, I'm Mr. Villain, your host, and thank you guys. And we just hope that something happens that gives us a better outlook for our future.
And a paramedic in suburban Minneapolis add to a grim toll. So far in 2024, there have been more mass shootings in this country than we've had days of the year. Our explores the unpack.
Gunshots, panic on parade in Kansas City. A Super Bowl celebration hijacked. Another American moment shattered.
I was just crying a lot.
Yeah, you had to have been terrified.
I was terrified.
And that wraps up another segment on gun violence in America. It's a heavy topic, but it's one that needs our attention. If you or someone you know is aware of potential gun violence, don't stay silent. There are resources out there to help you. Take action before tragedy strikes. For anonymous tips, you can reach out to Gun Violence Prevention Hotline at 1-800-SPEAK-UP or visit Everytown for Gun Safety at everytown.org for more resources or preventing gun violence in your community. If you're looking for support and you want to connect with others impacted by gun violence, groups like Moms Demand Action or Brady United offer support networks and advocacy programs. If you're looking to get involved, consider supporting organizations like Sandy Hook Promise and March for Our Lives, who are working every day to combat gun violence at its roots. Together, we can make a difference. On behalf of Jegaysus and myself, thank you for listening. Stay safe, stay informed, and remember, change starts with us. Let me know if you'd like to adjust or add anything to this topic. You can reach us at letmetakeyouhigherpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much, guys, and always take care of each other. And that's a wrap on this episode of Let Me Take You Higher, the podcast. Big thanks to our special guests, and a huge shout out to our incredible sponsors. You guys are literally the wind beneath our podcast wings. Remember, this show was dreamed up and brought to life by yours truly, Mr. Villain, and it's all made possible by BC Entertainment LLC, a proud subsidiary of Big Cheddar Music LLC. All rights are reserved by BC Entertainment, so don't even think about touching that dial without permission. Until next time, keep your minds elevated and your vibes higher. This is Mr. Villain signing off. Stay tuned, stay sharp, and stay forever gifted and lifted.
When life storms rage, skies grow dim, we gather the shards, piece by piece within. Through tears and trials, we find our might. Let me take you higher toward the light. Let me take you higher beyond the pain. Where broken dreams mend and hope remains. We'll rise from ashes like a phoenix bold. In the symphony of resilience, our stories unfold. When life storms rage and skies grow dim, we gather the shards piece by piece within. Through tears and trials, we find our might. Let me take you higher toward the light. Let me take you higher beyond the pain. Where broken dreams mend and hope remains. We'll rise from ashes like a phoenix bold. In the symphony of resilience, our stories unfold.